Welcome back to the news today. Delegates from Afghanistan, Pakistan, China, and the United States met in Islamabad today for talks to resurrect the long-stalled Afghan peace process. It comes as fighting with Taliban insurgents intensifies in the country. I-24 News defense correspondent Shai Ben-Ari has the details.
Talks began Monday in Islamabad, Pakistan, between 4 different countries with the aim of facilitating a peace deal between the government of Afghanistan and the Taliban. The Taliban itself is not represented at the talks for now, while officials from the Afghan government, the United States, China, and Pakistan are.
The primary objective of reconciliation process is to create conditions to bring the Taliban groups to the negotiating table and offer them incentives that can persuade them to move away from using violence as a tool for pursuing political goals.
Though a negotiation effort is underway, the Taliban is very much on the offensive, making territorial gains recently in the southern Helmand province, as well as conducting a series of attacks in the capital, Kabul. Many see this as an effort to gain leverage in the talks, and there has been speculation that Taliban leader Mullah Mansour could eventually give the go-ahead for the group's official participation in the process. Islamabad has influence over certain factions of the Taliban, and indeed some of the group's leadership is thought to be in Pakistan.
Threat of the use of military action against irreconcilables cannot precede the offer of talks to all the groups and their response to such offers. It is therefore important that preconditions are not attached to the start of the negotiation process. This, in our view, will be counterproductive.
Pakistan will likely be looking to persuade the Afghan government to cool relations with its rival, India, before applying any serious pressure on the Taliban. Meanwhile, one faction that is splintered off from the Taliban has rejected any sort of foreign involvement in the peace process, Pakistani or otherwise. The road ahead is likely a long one.
And with me right now is Colonel Richard Camp, former commander of British forces in Afghanistan. Good evening. Good to see you again.
Good evening. Very nice to see you again. It's been a long time.
It's been a long, long time. Still waiting for you to visit here in the studio. But until then, Colonel Camp, are we about to see some kind of a solution to this complicated situation?
Unfortunately, I don't think we are, because for a number of reasons. One of which is that the Taliban is deeply split. Since the death of Mullah Omar, there have been rival leaders running elements of the Taliban, including Mullah Mansour, who we heard about, and also Mullah Rasul, who has split off essentially from the main part of the Taliban. So the Taliban is more fractured even than it was before. Secondly, and I think there is tension, as your correspondent said, there is tension between the two groups. Secondly, Pakistan, of course, is in many ways the deciding element here. Pakistan control the Taliban to a very large extent. And only if Pakistan decide that it's the right thing to do now for the Taliban campaign to come to a conclusion, or at least to change in its nature, will that happen? Yes,
Colonel Camp, with the rise of ISIS and the current situation that we're watching around the world concerning terror, how, let's say, strong is the Taliban in Afghanistan today?
It's very strong. It's been gaining its strength since before and also after the main withdrawal of Allied forces from Afghanistan. There are still some there, but not in very large numbers and not in permanent fighting roles on the ground, although they do back up the Afghan forces. But the Taliban is very strong now and is making important gains, also making some losses. But they are suffering as a result of the rise of the Islamic State, as in other countries around the world. Particularly in the Middle East, the Islamic State is on the rise in Afghanistan, as it is indeed on the rise in Pakistan. And they're attracting some membership from the Taliban over to their own organization. So this, of course, does weaken and undermine the Taliban. Personally, I don't think the Taliban have any interest whatsoever in peace talks with the Afghan government as it's constituted today. But we can hope they do, but I don't have much confidence in that happening.
Colonel Camp, how are they trying to, let's say, win back the lost prestige because of the rise of ISIS? How are they trying to get back, let's say, to the game and be still the strong Taliban that we know and familiar with?
Well, of course, their main currency is violence. and they gain supremacy, they gain power and influence by intimidating people, by killing them, by torturing them, by threatening them. And that's the main way that they go to power. So they will, if anything, I think, increase and intensify their campaign to try and prevent people from splitting off and prevent, perhaps more importantly, prevent communities in Afghanistan from supporting the Islamic State rather than supporting them. That was their main campaign tactic when they were fighting Western forces there. The West were trying to be nice to the local people, which was seen as weakness to a large extent. The Taliban were making absolutely clear who was the strong horse here. It was them, it wasn't the West. Not because the West had less military power, of course it didn't, but because the West were less intimidating, the people were less terrified of the West.
Yes. Colonel Richard Camp, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for this.